to A Day on My Block. I'm Jen Day, and my better half, Ty Cueva, is here with us.
Hello.
And also, Mark, thank you for being here. You guys know how amazing and informed he is in the crypto space and Web3. So thank you for bringing all of that research and intellectualism, if I can make up a word, to the show. Appreciate it.
Mark's trying not to smile because Mark is much smarter than me. So there you go. But we left the last segment. We're gonna
Yeah,
talk about smart contracts and what else?
yeah, so I think it's important to understand with myBlock, you're launching this incredible opportunity for people to join in. But why now? Why 2025?
We should talk about what happened today, Mark, with the SEC and the entire pro crypto agenda that came out today. I'm looking at the news right now, and it says, and this is from Paul Atkins, our SEC chair. He said today, this is today, bud, this regulatory agenda reflects that it is a new day at the SEC. A key priority of my chairmanship is clear rules of the road for the issuance, custody, and trading of crypto assets, while continuing to discourage bad actors from violating the law. And Mark, you can answer to that and get into that in a second. And
Are we talking about bad acting or bad actors?
Well, I don't know how to act either way.
Okay.
But my point is, Mark can get into that, and we could save why they're doing this for the next segment if we have time for that. But I think it's important that people understand what Mark talks about right now for the smart contracts, because there's going to be one piece in that smart contract that's going to be super important, and what's going to separate myBlock from what has happened in the past, and why people will trust myBlock, especially on Web3, and the service that we are going to provide, because we will be doing the due diligence for both sides, right? We're going to be representing both the buyer and seller, and so that's going to be super important and critical. And that will be for another show and another day. But what's important is that Mark can detail out the smart contracts. And with that, Mark, if you could talk about smart contracts and then also kind of what happened today and kind of mix them together in terms of where our SEC chairman and what that message was all about.
That's a great way to frame the issue. If you're trying to understand a smart contract as an eighth grader, think of a digital vending machine. A smart contract is a piece of software that sets the rules in advance for an exchange of value. So think of an insurance policy or a real estate contract. In real estate, there's a buyer and a seller, and they're going to set some terms. And if the terms are met, there'll be an exchange of value. Wealth will be transferred from buyer to seller, and ownership will be transferred from seller to buyer. Usually there's a bunch of people and written paperwork and contracts, written legal instruments by humans. Web3 and smart contracts replaces those people and those processes in that paper with a piece of software code. So that Alice wants to buy a piece of real estate using Web3 and Bob wants to sell it. The only thing between them is a piece of software. And if the criteria are fulfilled, while they're sleeping, Alice and Bob will have a transfer of wealth from Alice to Bob and a transfer of ownership from Bob to Alice.
So how does it work when you actually, let's say there's people watching right now and they want to get in on this. What does that mean? How would they participate? Maybe they don't have $10 million to buy an entire property, but they have some money to invest. They maybe are already curious or already investing in Web3, and now it's like, well, real estate.
We're gonna have a countdown to when we launch in a few weeks here. But I think, Mark, what might be important and maybe frame the picture could be having lunch in Budapest. And you see an amazing property in Miami, Florida, or here in LA, right? here in Los Angeles. And we're doing this here from Bel Air, California. And so draw a picture, Mark, if you can, what somebody in Europe, in Budapest, they're very familiar with either Florida or California or wherever in the States. They go, they look at it, and they have the money that they would like to put into a piece of real estate, a specific piece of real estate or building here in the States via myBlock, how they utilize that, and the smart contract. Can you walk us through that?
Absolutely. So Alice is having lunch in Budapest, and Bob put up a property, and he's in LA, and so is his property. And Alice comes across this property and notices that she can own a fractional share of the ownership and earn a fractional share of the rentals if she goes and purchases a share of that real estate. Now, on Web 2, we know how that's done, if it can even be done overseas
Right.
with the paperwork and so forth, the permissions, the bank transfers, the wire transfer. It's going to take a long time if it's even going to happen. On Web 3, here's how it's going to happen with myBlock. Is Alice, with her phone, is going to send stablecoins from her wallet. A wallet holds keys to cryptocurrencies. Stablecoins are a variety of cryptocurrency. So she's got stablecoins that represent US dollars that are pegged to the value of the US dollar. And she's going to send stablecoins to Bob's wallet, specifically to the smart contract address that Bob has put in place. And while Bob's asleep, the smart contract receives the stable coins that Alice sent. The smart contract, documents that it's been arrived, that it's been received, and immediately mints and sends to Alice tokens that represent fractional ownership in the property that Bob put up. The smart contract did this while Bob's asleep. The smart contract made sure that all of the prerequisites were fulfilled, whatever those might be. And now this transaction is recorded on the blockchain. That's a high level view of how Alice now looks in her wallet in Budapest, and she sees tokens that represent ownership in the property that Bob put up. The more stable coins she sent, the more tokens she gets.
Right, the bigger ownership she has in that specific property, and it's basically a destination. It's a way to use your stable coins, to use your money if you have, your stable coins. And so there in your let's say your Phantom wallet, you have ownership in that property. You have some Bitcoin, you have some Ethereum, you have your stable coins. And
So
yeah,
when you're talking about the benefits of investing in something like this, and you have somebody looking at, okay, well, I want to invest in real estate. There's traditionally many layers of benefits and ways that you can earn. So let's have
let's
the benefits of doing
basic,
it. Yeah.
Really basic, right? When you buy a piece of real estate and you are the owner, right? What you're doing is you are collecting, your lease money, right? You get your lease money, and with that lease money, you do several things with it. You pay your mortgage, and now your mortgage is less, so your equity gets bigger. You pay your bills, and as you do all that, you also pay yourself some money of the monies you made, so you get all of that. Then you also, when it comes tax time, you do depreciation, right? And over time, your buildings, your properties are worth more money. So you get paid 5, 6, 7, 8 ways when you own a piece of property. So why should only people in today's world, certain people, have access to these trophy properties? Why is that? Well, it's because of what's happened over time. What we're bringing to the market via myBlock is, if you have $1,000, or there's be a threshold, a minimum threshold, each seller, they can put it out to the world, but you can participate in trophy properties or just a regular property you had your eye on in your hometown for a while and you want to be part owner of that property. Well, if that owner of that property puts it up for sale on myBlock, you now have the opportunity to buy a portion of it or half of it or whatever they're selling. You can now be that owner for what you can afford, but you can keep your eyes on it and drive past it every day and say, hey, I own part of that building.
And when you say real world asset, that's something
Exactly.
tangible that
Right.
people can see, that people not only can just see on the internet or see in digital form, but they can, like you said, drive by, or even if it's a trophy property and you have maybe some perks built into the smart contract, maybe they could even go visit, stay for a weekend. On that note, that'll be a little tease. We'll tell you more about how those things will work later, but we'll just take a break on this one. Thank you, Mark.
From a high level, Mark, I think what we should do in the next segment, if you have time to do that, I think we should talk about why I wouldn't do this in 2021 and why we were willing to now jump full in 2025. And it has a lot to do about a lot of things, but we can kind of summarize it in the next segment if that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully we got you guys curious enough to stay with us. So we'll see you on the next one. Bye.